Hey, Don the Auction Professor. It's Sunday again, so it's time for another What's Sold on eBay. I've just picked 20 or 30 items here. We're going to go over just some random items, nothing specific. I'm trying to stay away from books and clothing. We did sell some clothing. We did sell some leather jackets into the hundreds on sale. As I said, I've been trying to kind of liquidate it for the space. I've got a whole shelf this big just with clothing, with probably 400 items. We're photographing another 100 or so just to get them out the door. We decided we'll just sell them through really cheap and just blow them out the door for some of them. But we're going to go over to the screen and we're going to show you what's sold this week.
So the first item today is a button. This literally came in a lot of buttons at a estate sale, I believe. Sometimes you see those bins, they'll have like, I don't know, maybe a tin full of buttons or like a little tote full of buttons from crafters and things. You just have to know which ones are the earlier ones. This is actually hand carved. May not seem like much, but you know, these are like, you know, 10 for $1 type of things, or maybe even $5 for a huge tin of hundreds of buttons. Sometimes thousands you can get for that same price. And they always do sell. I think we sold 7 this week alone in the $10 to $15 range. These are buttons that literally you could even go to an antique mall, and some of them did come from an antique mall, or several actually, and you can literally get bunches of them for literally nothing, just a couple dollars for a whole card of buttons. Like this one here is hand carved, as I said, but it's in an odder type of wood, like a tropical wood. And the design is worn into there. You can see the dark around the edges. This is a nice one. This is a standard that you can find the same design, literally. I don't know if they had a pattern they cut them out from or what, but they are hand done, and they literally all look just like this. You can see the spinning circle marks where it was like tooled on the back, the big round circular groove around it. And again, on the back, you can see that the holes were actually hand tooled out, so that just shows even more that it's a handmade piece and an early one. So I took $12.50 for it. I had a couple of these. I put one up at a time. You can Google this. You can look at unended auctions, and you're going to see this same button that sells in this $10 to $15 range all the time. You know, every one that goes up of this kind I always sell. And it doesn't have to be the boat. There's tons of different designs like this. But they have to be vintage. Primitive looking is the thing, and hand carved. If you had a few dozen of these, you're going to be able to tell the difference in just a split second whether it was handmade or not. But let's go on to the next item. I talk about photographs. This literally just went up, and this is actually a photograph of a painting. It's a concept piece, literally taken out of a file. You can still see some rust from where a paper clip was holding it in. It has the back noting on it in the back. And it's an official one. This is an early piece. This is something you wouldn't just find. It may have never even been produced, but we ended up with like 600 8x10 military photos from an estate collection, and there are some massive, you know, scarce photos in there just like this. I mean, the list price on these is horrendous. I mean, in the $20,000 range is what we're listing them as. Obviously, we're not going to sell them off for that, but it's still going to be a big, huge mover. This is just the first one. We listed like, I think 32 of these. We got an offer on almost every one of them. They were lowball $10 offers, so literally the first grouping we put up, we had an offer on every single one of those for $10 a pop. But again, I turned them all down. I sent back $50, and that's literally what this first one sold for here. And again, I'm not in a hurry to sell them. I'd rather sell one for $50 than, you know, a bunch for just $10, because my return on the investment is going to come back to me. This type of item is rare. I'll hold on to them through Christmas, and they're gonna go by then. I'll be selling a ton of them by then. And I'm not really worried if they sit there for a while. I'm going for the better money, the easier money, you know, less wrapping up, less everything else. But photos always go. And again, estate sales, local auctions are good, flea markets are good, even garage sales. I see stuff like this once in a blue moon sitting on a garage sale table. Somebody had no idea it was worth anything. They just threw out all the stuff they had in the basement out on the table, and boom. You know, so there's a ton of these out there. Well, maybe not so much this one, but there's a ton of this type of material. This is probably from the 40s or 50s as well, too. It's an original, so that's what you want to look for. trade cards. This one I took $18.50, as you see. It's a pretty cute one, and that's what really sold it in my opinion. And well, it's stove-wise too. Glenwood's cards usually sell. There's postcards for Glenwood. There's booklets for Glenwood. Anything that says Glenwood stoves usually sells for 10 to 20 bucks. You know, it's just a given. I never worry about, you know, if it says Glenwood, I always buy it. There's other stove companies as well too, and again, there's postcards and such forth. This is close to the size of a postcard. This actually was pulled out of a postcard collection, so you know, this one wasn't even up very long. This one was just put up. I took 50 bucks on it. It's a cute, cool card, anthropomorphic. The pig dressed literally, and you can see his leg actually has the stamp. Literally is like you would buy literally a whole setup of ham. So I thought that was interesting. It's like a double meaning to it. But 50 bucks on that one. Again, these cards show up all over the place. You just have to know where to find them at. You know, collections all the time, estate sales, flea markets, antique malls are good too. Here's a high dollar one I sold. I took $315 for this one. And this honestly was not even the highest we sold a card for this week. We pulled out some of the rare ones. Usually we'll pull some out throughout the time. I won't list all the rare ones all at once, so we'll have some setting for months sometimes before we put them up, and then we'll throw like 3 or 4 out a week sometimes. Just because, you know, you're going to run into a thing where a person, you know, there's a few collectors for this area, for example. If you're in a niche and there's not a ton of collectors for that specific area, you got to watch out so you don't flood the market with all high dollar items where they can't afford to buy them all. So don't flood the market. Put a few up at a time. I sell to the same people over and over and over again. I kind of know their limits. I don't want to shove everything all out at once. You know, it's just the way I do business. So, you know, you can do it yourself that way or not, but this is from personal experience. Literally what I have done through my time doing this, that always pays off in the end. I can get a higher price because they're not stressed out from other ones. This is one of the top, you know, like say 40 or less cards that sold in this whole category. Might even be the top 10. I didn't even look, but I know it's in the top 40 or less, you know, higher up on the list, you know. So these things do show up. They do sell. This is an oddball one. That somebody had this one up for $599. I have not seen that one, this one go for that much. I've had 1 or 2 of these before in the past. It's been a long time, but these do show up. It's again about the size of a postcard, 3.5 by 5.5. That's one of the keys here. That's why these don't always show up traditionally where you'd think. These will be pulled out of, you know, postcard lots and, you know, antique malls, antique stores, flea markets. Nobody knows what this is. It just shows up to them. They look at the front, boom, it looks like an advertising card. They'll throw it in there. An observant eye will see otherwise and, you know, put it aside and look this thing up. But, you know, when you get hundreds of paper items in from, you know, wherever these people buy this stuff at, wherever my pickers pick up this stuff at, you know, they don't always look through everything. You're not going to have the time to look through hundreds and hundreds of these cards. So, you know, I come out ahead when we do it that way. That's just a given for us, and that's how it's always worked. Let's move on to the next item here. This one wasn't in good condition. You can see it's got some discoloration, unfortunately. These Halloween cards with anthropomorphic, you know, owls smoking a pipe, with, you know, blood burns and, you know, these little poems and sayings, they always sell well. Had it had, you know, no discoloration, it would have done much better. But still, I took 20 bucks on it plus shipping. It's been up for a while. Who knows what it was worth? Let's move on to the next one. Here's another better card. I took $100 on this one here. Let's see here. This is an engraved one. It was actually pretty neat. I like these early engraved ones, and they usually sell very well for us. The last one was in the $100 range or so I took for one of these. And it's usually Richter. And I've seen other Richter, so I don't know if it's a different family or just coincidence that they've done them, but they're selling literally buffalo fur robes, which are very, very, very scarce these days. Any of these cards that are advertising it, so you just gotta watch out what you're seeing. Look at the size. Look at the content on these. Something like this, you know, I could have afforded to pay, you know, 20 bucks for this card. And stuff like this you will see at an antique mall for 20 bucks sometimes, because again, they don't look it up, or they don't know how to look it up, or they can't find a price for it at all, so they just throw some random price out there. You know, no one's an expert on everything. Each mall or each dealer is specific in certain areas, just as you are, just as I am. And that's how this works. You pick the areas that they don't know or that they haven't bothered to mess with, and that's where my picking comes into play, or my pickers as well too. But next item here, again, as I said, $100 we took on that one. Now this one sold because it has the swastika in here. Now for those of you who do not know, the swastika symbol has been around for hundreds of years. It goes way back. It's a pictograph. Native Americans used it. I've seen it in Buddhist emblems and things like that, Buddhist temples. Sometimes it's a little turned a little differently, but it's a peace symbol for all those who do not know that. And again, look it up if you doubt it. It's a peace symbol. It's been around for a long time. There's ancient records of this thing, being around. So this is pre, Adolf Hitler and, the Nazis. This is, again, a California card. They're not buying it because they like the swastika. They're buying it for the oddity of the card. It's something scarce. This was up for like 2 hours. Again, these things sell really quick. If you have a bunch of something, 100 of something, and you put it up and you don't sell something in the first few days, you better check on the prices, because, we always, if I list 100 items, we're getting 4, 5, 6, maybe even sometimes more than that offers on items within the first couple hours of listing something. And that's literally a given. I tell you that in every video. That happens all the time. That's why our sales are increasing right now instead of going down, because we just keep listing more stuff every day. So on top of the other items that we're selling normally, we're adding in another 5 extra sales every day that we list new stuff. So 5 today, 5 more tomorrow, and on top of that, it builds up a residual income. This is kind of how the insurance industry works. They work off of, repeating commissions from selling an insurance policy, and then the head agent gets a little percentage of that. The agent who sold it gets a percentage of that. So whenever these people pay, you get a percentage of it, and you keep selling more and more of something, and then you're getting percentages from 10 items, then 20 items, then 30 items, then 40 items. So that's how that works. That's how that works with selling items on eBay when you're doing these type of items. The sell-through rate means nothing. All that matters is that you're selling the items at a good rate where you're taking in well over what your expenses are. And at this point, when you're taking in what we're taking in a day, I have no concerns whatsoever. We rake out whatever labor I have. So if anybody wants to work, they're coming in and working. I don't turn anybody away. We spent some money. We're expanded the area down here. We've put some tabletops across some of these and expanded just this week. So I'll probably show you maybe at least the main area that we do most of our work in here in the next week or two too, so you can kind of see where we're at and what we do and how we do it. And we're gonna again have a drawing for the 5 or 6 people that put in their eBay name for a critique. And we'll go off with that too. But let's move on to the next item here. Again, this one went for $24.50. I took the offer within 2 hours of it going up. We got an offer right now, but we will set that aside. Cocaine back in the day was actually something that you could buy in stuff. Coca-Cola, for those of you who do not know, was originally a medicine basically with cocaine in it. It had Coke in it. That's where the name came from. Look it up again if you're not sure on that. I've had the early bottles from back in the turn of the day, the little sample ones and stuff. There was cocaine in those. That's just the way it was. It came out of the system at one point where they didn't put it in there anymore, but that's what it is. So cocaine you will see in this. You will see heroin ads, just on and on. You'll see marijuana. It may be spelled a little differently, but that's what you'll find on these. We took, I think $17.50 we made on this one here. Again, this has been up for a while. Who knows what it's worth? It's just a piece of cutout paper from a magazine. And on something like this, I should have probably blown up, but this was something that, again, that's been up for a while. We've got 60 cents or 70 cents into listing it, pennies, if that, into buying it, because it was bought with a whole bunch of stuff in literally paper that I cut out. It was wrinkled before it was cut, but this is literally what we do. It's just a little tiny piece of paper that we've got $17.50 out of. Now, it has to be the right kind of paper. Quack medicine is always good. So quack medicine would be stuff that doesn't really do anything and had no proven medicinal use. That's quack medicine. You can look it up, do a Google search on quack medicine, spend some time. You'll find some very interesting things there if you like antiques and collectibles. But again, this one's $17.50. Neat item, good price. Label again, this is a flight label. I took 15 on this. Gentleman was very happy with this. But it's a neat item. It's pretty interesting. This is one you don't see very often. Pacific Courier. It's a Japanese airline. I love the geisha image on there. The artwork is phenomenal, in my opinion. It's a really an eye catcher, and the person was very happy, as I said, with this specific one. But let's move on. Now this one here, I actually had an email from somebody who was on this ship laughing at me saying, you know, you're never going to get that. These go for like $2 right now. We've got cases of them, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I didn't pay any attention to that. I know what I saw online. One of these sold in the $20 to $30 range. I don't remember the exact specifics, but it was somewhere in that range. So I put this up a reasonable price. I usually sell mugs like this regardless. I took $25 for it. You know, so the gentleman who was on the ship, fine and dandy, but these are scarce to the general public, or, you know, at least they have the perceived value of being scarce. May not be, but it sure looks that way. Glass bake, it's an early one, legit piece from a nuclear submarine. Anything that has the nuclear image on it usually sells for us. Anything like this that's a physical object, not paper, but a physical object. Next one here, roller skating rinks again, $34.50. This is a repeating pattern here. You should see that when you see these items. Ask around. Do they have any skates? Ask for skates if you're not sure on how to find these. And then if they come out and pull out a couple skates, ask, do you have any of the labels? Even if it's on the roller skating case, a case with roller skating labels on it sells very well, just like a suitcase does with travel, luggage labels on it. So just keep that in mind. I sell a couple of these, you know, every week. I think last week we sold 6. The week before, I think we sold at least one every single day of the week. At least $20 a piece is what I get for these. This is like a poster stamp. The gentleman who bought this actually knew the company. It was his great-grandfather who ran this company, which was pretty interesting. He was very happy to get it, so, you know, that was an interesting and neat thing to find out. He supplied the name, which I have a couple other pieces still in my collection here, so chances are he'll end up buying those as well, too. This one here, I think I got $30 out of it. And again, these are just little tiny stamps. Literally, you can see they're not even in good condition. Somebody had cut them out, literally. It was sitting in a little postage stamp collection. And as I said, these show up at estate sales. They show up at thrift stores, flea markets, and even garage sales. I have bought stamps. Just because it's St. Nicholas, don't take that as meaning it's not anything good. St. Nicholas Post, this might have been something supplied by St. Nicholas. There's a magazine called that. It could be a collectible item. But all these early 1890s Christmas things always sell. You can tell the age just by the construction and the printing, literally in these. And the Santa on this one's the earlier style. I believe one of these had some writing on it somewhere too. But again, decent item, decent price. Nothing into them. I've got literally nothing. A penny or two, if that. Maybe, let's see the number there, F87. Maybe it's been up for, 45 cents worth of listing. I don't really worry so much about the time. It's how much you have into something. If you're running on, the item's only worth $3 or $4, and you've got to, $2 in listing it, at this point it's time to end it. But that's about the only reason I would end something. Let's see here. Now, I showed this one here, and I talked about this one. This one I took $125. It was up literally for maybe 4 hours. Again, this is how it works for us. This is how our sales are increasing and not going down. We're well enough increasing. This is something that takes minutes to list, minutes to photograph, minutes to wrap up, and we made, $120. Well, minus the fees, we made like 105, 110, or 110 on this, somewhere in that range. So it's just a piece of paper. And again, I paid $250. I think we paid for this entire huge lot. I've now since made like $1,200, $1,500 back on that. I'm not even worried about what's going on after this point. It's all gravy for us on this lot, and that's where the cigar labels came from too. So that kind of gives you another idea there. Let's look at the next item. I showed this in a haul. I got $13.50 plus they paid shipping out of it. Again, these are like $1 item. You can find this here, this exact same thing at Goodwill, Savers, and Salvation Army. I guarantee it. If you look enough, look in the little bins where like the playing cards are. and little stuff like that. Again, playing cards sell too. I've got other videos here. If you haven't seen my earlier videos, I really recommend it. I've got about 160 videos on all kinds of topics and stuff, just like what you're seeing here. All my haul videos, I try to stray away from the usuals that everybody else shows you. There's no sense in showing you the same pair of pants that every other seller shows you, the same shirt, the same whatever the case may be. These are all oddball items. These are all uniques, and they all sell. Let's go on to the next item. This is a set, Loope. This is like a bullion cube, basically. They made cards back in the 1870s internationally. This is probably one of the biggest international jarred food products back from the 1870s to the 1890s that you could probably imagine. They made millions of these cards. This is a 6-card set. This person bought several sets. I think altogether he paid like 60 some odd bucks plus shipping. I put up a couple hundred of these at one time, half gone now, and it's been a year, maybe a year and a month or so, but half of them are gone. Average price is like $27.50 or higher for every one that I sold out of this lot. So 50 lots at $27.50, and I bought this from a collector. These show up in postcard books, basically. They're about the size of a postcard. They were collected like postcards. Loope actually made postcard books, or books that this would go in. It even says like card album on the front of these in the 1880s, 1890s. Some of them are promotional items. And they made these books, though, so you will find these in estate sales and auctions and things like that, even flea markets, where they think they're just postcards. They don't take them out of the book, and it's just a postcard set. You'll see these in a ton of different languages: German, Italian, French. I've even seen a Creole card or two here. Some oddball stuff. You'll see them all over the place. Spanish, of course. So it just depends. The English ones seem to sell better because there's fewer of them around. This was a European company. So, and there's actually a set that has bovine or cows on it that the cards can go for $200 or $300 a piece. And again, these show up in postcard collections all the time, just because they show up in a size of a book that looks just like a postcard book, and they look like postcards from the front if you don't pay enough attention to them. And it's a good item. I sold 2 to the same person, you know, repeat business. He's bought in some before as well too. This was in a haul. These were an easy sell, good condition, nice photos. Gives you a real good idea on what their condition is, and you know, the quality on the figures. Easy, quick sell. I think this is a California one. Yep, California one again, $17.50. Up overnight, sold overnight. This one is in a haul video, I do believe, too. Yeah, I do believe this was in a haul video. This one was a pretty quick mover, too. This was up for maybe 4 or 5 hours. The card was actually trimmed, too, so that tells you how scarce this one is. Somebody cut close to the edge of the card, and you can see how the text is right up on the top where the Libby is. It's barely touching. There should be another, say, ½ inch, or there could even have been a border on this one here, looking at the right side where you see the printed line. That's just something to take into account when you sell these, to know that there should always be some extra paper around the main image on almost anything. The bottom of this card's obviously trimmed from what I see too. There should be at least ½ inch more on the bottom of it, but again, it's still sold $14.50. I should have probably put it up for, say, $34.50, but being trimmed and all, I thought, nah. So, you know, I do make mistakes, but again, I got nothing into it, so I still made, you know, 12 bucks after fees. They paid postages. Everybody does. I just literally, while we were talking, I just had another offer. It looked like it was the same one. This person here has bought a whole bunch of these. He buys one like every other week or so. Maybe he's on a budget or whatever the case may be, so that's fine, but these always sell. I think we took $47.50. Yeah, $47.50 on this plus shipping. So it was a good investment. It's just a little, basically a poster stamp, almost like a little advertisement that you could put on an envelope or something, or put on a bank receipt to show, hey, you can get your stuff here, we print as well. It's really nothing. It's really a tiny piece of paper that's, oh geez, not even, just barely 2 inches, just barely over 2 inches across, barely 1.5 inches tall. So a real small piece of paper. Takes up no space. I can fit hundreds of these in a little tiny envelope. And this is where the money's at. You see the money. I doubt it'll be as easy to find a shirt that you can turn around and make almost 50 bucks for, you know, just overnight, you know, and then find a bunch of them at the same time. But at a flea market, an antique mall, antique stores, estate sales and auctions, this type of stuff is there for the picking. And nobody thinks it's worth anything, just like you're probably thinking, who's going to pay that for it? Why would I mess with that? I don't know anything about that. This is nothing. I never even seen this one before, nor can I find any other records of it, but I priced it by similar stylish items. I can't even find a stamp like this. So literally I used a card as a basis for a price on this. If a card that looks like this goes for $50, boom, I'm going to put it at $57.50 and just see what happens. I've got nothing to lose. I've got 30 or 40 cents into listing it. You know, I've got pennies into buying it. Again, you just can't beat the margins on this department, this area. This is a niche that's available to anybody who's going to do the digging and the hard work to find these items. But you're going to make out like a bandit, and you're going to look at clothes and go, I don't want to ever do clothes again. Why would I, when this is what I can get and sell easily without an issue? It might sit for a little while, so it's going to take you a little while to build up to that point. But this is all residual. You know, at a certain point, the money just comes in every day of the week. If I didn't list for weeks, I could still have a very nice income without worrying about anything. You know, it's just there's so much stuff up, but I keep increasing my sales by listing daily. Let's see here. Another one, this one I took 20 on. And again, these sell all the time. You know, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but these do sell all the time. You can find them. I find them constantly. You see how many I sell. I don't have a magic wand that creates these. I literally track these down or have people to track them down. If I can get this kind of stuff in on a regular basis, so can you. There's nothing special about me. I've just taken the time and putting in a lot of legwork. 2 years to get to the point where I started to have pickers. 3 years to the point where I had decent pickers. And 4 years, just a year and a half to almost 2 years ago, is when I got my last good picker, and I've got the 8 group here. I've got, again, a 9th person that I've gotten a couple things from in the past, but I think that they've got other people that buy, and when those people aren't available, then they call me. No big deal. I'll still take it, and maybe eventually these other people screw them over or something, and that's where I can step in. I've gotten 2 of my pickers from other people not showing up or making a promise and not doing it, or never having enough money to pay for stuff that they have. Things like that. Just always pay your stuff off, do the right thing, and honor what you say. And you're going to get some good respect from these people and get some good deals and get some pickers at some point. This is literally a scrap of paper again, and I did sell it for $17.50. It even has a line, as you can see, after mist running through it here. Now, it's a fantasy piece. It's cut out of a Larkin Soap Company. I'm not sure, maybe a magazine, maybe an almanac, something along that line. It could even be a part of a paper card, but literally it's just a chunk of that card that somebody has nicely cut out around the edges and sold it. It has scrap in the title. It's not stating it's something it's not. I listed it as scrap. It's a lovely piece. Made of the Mist is from Niagara Falls, if you're not familiar with it. I've been on the ship. Nowadays there's a ship called Maiden of the Mist or Maid of the Mist, and you take an elevator, get down to the bottom of the falls, and you can take a boat out into Niagara Falls. I've done it with the family. My son literally traveled to Canada last year, and they went to the capital and spent a week there. And Canada's pretty cool if you haven't been there. So I have we have our cards to go across the border. We live close enough to go to Canada. Canada's a very lovely, nice country. Let's see. Let's move on to the next one. This is a light meter. Again, these sell fairly regularly. You can buy them in big bulks, again, at auctions. Sometimes these will show up and you'll find them in flea markets and yard sales. You just got to look in the paper, look in Craigslist. There's a ton of these things that you can buy that are going to make you good money that you can get cheap. You just got to look outside the box. Let's see here. I've talked about these. I had a couple of these. This is a bookmark. On the top, there's literally like a serration in there down by the green petals above her head, and that would literally slide into the book page to mark it. A lovely piece. This one went for $40. I took on it. Actually, I took $45 plus shipping on this one. It's really a nice one. I mean, I really admired the artwork in this one here. I could have sold it a few times, but I held out because I really think this is a nice one. You don't show up these kind of items in this quality. The painting is very nice for this era. It's bright, it's pretty, it's literally an attractive bookmark. Literally, it's nice. I thought it was. It's nice all around. You can see on the top there the slit. Now, if you see that on something like this, that's a bookmark. anything like that. And this was bought with this one might be one that actually came from a like an antique mall book booth, because you're going to find these things in there. They don't know always that they're old. They haven't a clue what they're worth. They don't look them up. They don't, they're just not into all this stuff. They know the books, yeah, sure, fine, and this kind of stuff shows up there. And I sometimes will run into a booth and there'll be a couple hundred bookmarks from somebody who used to collect bookmarks. Sometimes I'll try to buy them all if there's a ton of early ones, or I'll pick out all the ones for $1 or $2 that are cool like this, and we'll usually break out on them. Let's move on to the last item here. Now these were up for, I want to say 9 months. 7 months. These were up for 7 months. And I wasn't sure if I should mark them down or not. I don't like China. I really don't mess with too much of this. I know there's some good money in it, but it takes up a lot of space. And for me, paper and records just stack up so nicely. You can just dump them into certain bins. They fit so well. Same with 78s. Any of the paper is easy to store. All this stuff takes up so little space. It's so easy to organize, and you don't have to worry about it breaking for the most part. So I try and stay away from this, but this was cute. It was Disney. I worked for Disney. I can kind of tell the eras and stuff. This is an earlier one. It's not just the junk newer ones. It's definitely a 60s version of it, without a doubt. They're very cute. It's a set that doesn't show up, and I wished I had them all, because this whole set, all the Dalmatians, is worth a ton of money. It literally had Walt Disney Productions copyright on the bottom, so of one of the feet, and they're all together. It was obviously a nice set, but that's what we have today. This is just a random selection of what we sold. Nowhere near all what we sold just on this one account. Again, we do have 2 accounts that are main accounts, and then a third one that we run tests and things. We are still running a test now on whether it's easier or beneficial to do 30 days and then relist versus, good till canceled. So I will have some results with that shortly now. We're ticking away here. It's going to be another month or so, because I run it for several months when we do these tests. But that's what I have today.
Well, there you go. That's what we sold. Again, it's just a random assortment. It's just a small percentage of what we sold. We sold several hundred items, obviously, throughout the week, just on this one account. And again, we do have 2 anchor stores and then a third store as well. Between the 2 anchor stores, we have about 40,000 active listings right now. But that's what I have. Again, hit the bell up top if you'd like to have notifications when I post a new video or when we go live. Hit the like button below if you did enjoy the video. Subscribe and tell a friend.